Very exciting session we're about to start. Great to see you all here taking part. So the big question here for you is, for us, is from startup to scale up. How do we scale impact effectively to transform sectors and ecosystems? And we're going to talk about with three amazing individuals who know a lot about growth, from startup, from medium size to really big impact. And the big challenge here is not just growth, but the right kind of growth, and a growth that really does justice both to your mission, your values, but also to the investors who at the end of the day want to return and need to be in business. And we have three amazing individuals to just enrich us with a couple of questions that we'll ask them. Jaime de Ravago is corporate manager at Silvestris. Amazing individual. He's an engineer with this disposition for entrepreneurship, especially environmental entrepreneurship and finance. So when do you see clean tech, renewable energy, and financial expertise all in one individual under the umbrella of I am a proud engineer? And then we have Enrique Asuncion, he's the CEO of Wallbox Chargers. So for those that do not know Wallbox Chargers, it's really it's an intelligent kind of charger, not the usual one, for the new movement, e-mobility. And this combines cutting edge technology, so really the best with outstanding design. So really many of these chargers are missing the pleasant, the nice user friendliness of charging experience, and this is what they've really managed to make happen. They were awarded the best start in 2017. That's when they started. Then a 15 million funding round, now in 30 countries, so a big expansion. I'm looking forward to Enrique and his ideas on expansion. And last but not least, one of our passions, chocolate. So Peter Zandi is currently working at Tony Chocolonely's. He's supporting the expansion and the development of Tony into the US and to this new great vision that Tony has. So both the product and the vision are equally important. So let's see with the three of them how we can get started. And the first question is really about what is the right way forward with growth? I would love to ask you, what do you think is the right growth? What do you dream of it being the right growth? And maybe we can start with Jaime. Jaime, you mentioned the hashtags Sembramos O2, Compensamos CO2. So it's about planting oxygen, compensating CO2. Is that the kind of growth you're looking for? What growth do you dream your company to achieve? What's really important?
Well, you know that these days we have a big debate about climate change and about the future of our world, the future of our countries and our economies. And yes, our key question for us is that we develop projects based on reforestation and afforestation, and is the biggest scale project in Spain for these reforestation programs. And of course, our big impact will come with the big growth. So in our case, we were just a startup just 1.5 years ago. We were 7 people, and now we are more than 20 persons in the office, but we have a big growth forward. And the only way to create great impact, the only way is to growth. That is our principle, but we have to take into account that we cannot and we don't have to lose our principles. So this Sembramos CO2 is very important, as is the only way to do this way forward. And as bigger as we can go, we are sure that we will create more impact. So is the right way forward, in our opinion, is the only way forward.
Fantastic. And I think, Enrique, I think you will agree this concept of principles is definitely at the center of any kind of growth. In the recent interview, you mentioned something about the goal is not to be big, not to be big, it is to have impact, which sounds very nice. In the end, Enrique, being the best is what motivates us. Being the best without impact makes no sense. Can you tell us a bit more about this dream for growth that you have in your company?
Well, thank you, Daniel, and thank you to Ship2B. So yes, we want. We always say that we don't want to be the biggest; we want to be the best, and this is something we take very seriously. And to explain what we do and how we want to grow, as you say, we do two things. One is we make boxes that you put in your wall. That's what we call wall box to charge your electric car. But two, more important, is that we do the software and the energy management functionalities that allow you to charge your car when energy is cheaper, to adapt to the power of your installation so you always charge as fast as possible. And more important than that is that we are the only ones that have the technology that allow you to use your electric vehicle battery, which is a huge battery. You can power with your EV battery your home for 4 days. So we have the technology not only to charge your car, but also to discharge your car and make your car a battery for the home or a battery for the grid. So every charger we're installing, we are making possible the energy transition. So installing new chargers to make cars to charge is nice. It's a huge business. But what we are more excited about is that every time we grow, every time we add a new charger, we are making possible that we use renewable energies, that people can store the renewable energy to spend it during night, or even can charge when the grid is producing a lot of power and discharge and send the power back to the grid when the energy is more expensive or is not clean. And this is not something that will happen in the future. This is something we are doing today already, and we are selling hundreds of thousands of these products today. And every charger we sell is making this vision possible for our growth.
And I love this concept of the car becoming a battery itself. No, it's not just consuming to drive, it's also becoming a battery that other people can use and go forward. And Peter, what do you have to say about this use of a product to become a message for a different kind of mindset, for a new kind of mindset? I think it's very, very telling that you were saying how chocolate bars are divided equally. No, everything is equal when things are maybe not so fair and not so equal, neither in the industry nor in the world. And I think you may want to use, if you're not eating it already, Peter, a visual example of what you mean and how your product is achieving that.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, thank you for having me on this panel. So for people who are not familiar with Tony's Chocolonely, as we only have just launched here in the Spanish market, this is sort of like what our bar looks like with the wrapper around it. But then once you open up the bar, we designed it kind of like in a unique fashion, where the design is unequal as opposed to sort of like equally designed, which most other chocolate bars are. And we try to communicate with this that the world of chocolate is not shared equally. Farmers are not being paid a fair price. And for me, our dreams in terms of growth, in order to tell you a little bit more about that, I probably have to explain a little bit more what our vision of the company is. Like we're a Dutch company, and we were started by a journalist and a TV show in the Netherlands with a vision to create a 100% slavery-free chocolate industry. And so with that, we don't really only talk about our chocolate, our sourcing, but we really talk about all chocolate in the world. So when it comes to growth, on the one hand, we are looking to obviously grow our own business, but that really is more of a means to an end to prove the model that we are pursuing and to like make other chocolate companies see that this is possible. So when we talk about growth and impact, we really ultimately are like looking at like what we are doing in West Africa, where about 1.5 million children work under illegal circumstances in the chocolate industry. And so looking at growth, we look at like obviously our revenues because it has a direct impact. But in addition to that, we look at like the awareness, the issue awareness among the general public. And we look at like how other companies are changing the ways they do business.
So we heard this importance of vision, this compelling vision, not just that it tastes great, by the way, between you and me, Peter. I just love Tony Chocolonely. And now it's in Spain. Fantastic. We heard vision from Peter. We heard Enric's innovation, Jaime's principle. But let's go now to the essence, growth. No, the title of this is growth. What all the people listening to us are looking for. How can we grow? What kind of growth? So can you perhaps give us a bit more insights into the growth model or the kind of growth that's important to you? And if we maybe repeat the same round, Jaime?
Okay, well, it is very important to understand, at least from our side, that when we talk about growth, we have to talk about balanced growth and what we call intelligent growth. So be very careful with the best partners dash investors, best stakeholders, and best clients. This is our principle. In our case, we are applying our technology, previous technology developed during 30 years of activity in the reforestation environment here in Spain and in Portugal. But we have to complement this with several points, and the best thing was to develop or to design a big project. In our case, together with our main investor, which is Repsol Impacto Social, so a company of the big company Repsol, which is indeed the first company declaring the net zero target for 2050, the first in the world, oil and gas. We create what we call the Motor Verde program, so the green engine program, with the aim of having 70,000 hectares planted in the following years in Spain. Is without doubt the biggest program privately promoted in Spain. And this has to be with the best. And this is what Enrique has said. It is not the question of the biggest, but be the best ones. And in our case, this is what we call intelligent growth. We are getting contact and having different agreements with high technology companies in the different ways that we have to develop for this project. So planting strategies, planting technologies, but also surveillance, satellite surveillance of our forests. Of course, drones use not only for seeding, which is quite difficult, but mainly for surveillance. So best partners and investors, best stakeholders. We are talking with the governments of the different comunidades autónomas, our regional governments in Spain. Also, we are talking with the municipalities. They are really happy to hear about us because we are going to what we call here the España vaciada, the empty Spain. We reforest and we go where nobody goes. When there is no hope to create industry, there is no hope to create services, we go there because there are the big areas where we can develop our forest. And of course, we have the best clients. In our portfolio, we have several companies of the IBEX 35, banks, energy industries, industrial companies, etc. So for us, this is the key: intelligent growth, balanced growth. This is very, very important.
And it's interesting to see how you achieve that through many dialogues. Now, you're mentioning many, and I'm going to ask you more about this kind of the dialogue and what kind of conversations are needed for this kind of growth to happen. And Enrique, from Best for Europe, now in 30 countries, your growth has been exponential. So can you tell us a bit more about this growth pattern? Either what do you think are some key elements that allowed this growth? Is it your purpose? Is it your product? Is it your service? What elements really allowed this great growth?
Yeah, actually, we are in 80 countries now. We have been able the last years to expand globally. We are the truly only global EV charging leader with presence in China, in the US, in Europe, in South America. The way we've done it is basically one with the products. Of course, technology is key, and we cover home charging, but also semi-public charging and public charging. But very important also is our vertically integrated manufacturing. So we take care of the design, the development, and the manufacturing. We have factories in Europe, in China. Now we're opening a new one in the United States, and having our own factories and our own teams that take care of the whole process allow us to be very fast on developing new products that solve issues and requirements for every market. Selling electric equipment is not just opening a website. You need to be certified and to fulfill the requirements of every country. And the key in our market is that 97% of the charging installations still need to happen. So we are in a market that is just beginning. And the challenge is not really selling. The challenge is producing the products and having them in every market. So our growth is focused on global expansion. 80 countries now, we have to be global, and more countries. It's focused on the whole product portfolio. We have home, we have charging at work. We are now launching public charging. We later will launch super fast charging for the highway. So covering the whole spectrum. And of course, having the factories to produce all of these products. And to do that, you need money at the end. So we have been able, actually 4 weeks ago, to become a publicly traded company in the New York Stock Exchange. We have raised more than $250 million. And after 6 years that we were born, today we are a public company, and we have the resources to deliver on this business plan. And actually, at the end, to make this impact, we want to make we want to make cars electric, but to do that, to solve charging. And we are starting for charging at home, but also we will provide charging in every space.
I mean, the speed is staggering. No, I was at 30, and now you'll give me 80 countries, and a country is a big place with lots of chargers. So amazing what's happening. The speed of change is grand. And Peter, love that Tony Chocolonely is expanding now in Spain. Your task, your challenge is to expand in a big place called the US. Can you tell us a bit more about this growth pattern, both, and I guess in the two senses now, of obviously more sales, but also the reason for existing of Tony is of changing mindsets, improving mindsets, anti-slavery. Can you tell us a bit more about this growth pattern?
Yes.
Your challenge with.
So yeah, indeed, to reiterate, our goal is not necessarily to be the biggest chocolate company in the world. We know that will take way too long, and we need to generate impact much quicker, much faster. Ultimately, the goal is to have everybody pay a fair price and have impact in Africa. And so currently, I'm actually based in Spain, and my role currently is to expand Tony's in Southern Europe. But I started in 2015 at Tony's in the United States. My responsibility was to launch Tony's there, and that's what I did until about a year ago. And so the US was the first market where we expanded internationally. When I joined Tony's, we had about 20 people working in the Netherlands. We only had a revenue of about 4 million, 5 million, and we were totally ill prepared to actually launch Tony's in the United States. The market is so completely different from the Netherlands or from anywhere else in Europe, really. It's geographically so much bigger that it creates all kinds of issues, especially when you're shipping chocolate across the ocean. And so initially I actually suggested that they shouldn't start in the United States, but focus their growing internationally in Europe. But for them, the reason to grow in the US was that 3 of the 5 largest chocolate companies in the world are based in the United States. And so in order to have impact, it was important to go into their home market and really show that we could do this. So it took us longer to get started than we had hoped for. But once we started, we grew in a very sort of geographically lined out plan, where we stuck to the plan and try to stay focus on geographic areas, grow slowly, because we didn't have the finances to really go big from the very beginning. And so ultimately, after 2 years, we were national. Now we this year we do about 20 million in the United States. We are across the country in natural and specialty grocery, but also places like Target. So it's really tremendous to see how that happened, especially given that we didn't have the benefit of starting with the TV show in the Netherlands. And so to build awareness in the US proved to be a lot more complicated than we initially had thought. And so after all this experience, we realized we had to change our organizational structure before growing internationally across Europe. And we've done that, and now we are across Europe and many other countries in the world.
And we only have 4 minutes left. This is really a teaser. I know that people really want to follow you and learn much more about you, but in this last teaser, every one of you mentioned the speed or not speed and how investors play a role. And just really briefly in 2 phrases, what has been your relationship with investors? Has it changed over the years? Are they more impact driven? And what kind of conversation we had with them? Just very briefly, we would love to see the role of investors and your conversations with them.
Well, in our case, it has been a big accelerator. So as we always say, we have passed from planting dozens of hectares a year, even 100 and more, to 1,500, so 1,500 hectares this season. And in the following years, we will have to plant more than 10,000 a year. This is a huge growth here in our project, but this is caused because, and I have to say that our investor make us believe in this big growth. As Enrique has said, we have now resources. We are launching different initiatives to make sure that more investors can enter into the project. And we also have to do a lot of alliances, as I've told before, with different technology companies. And this is only because our big investors have pushed us to do so. And we are quite happy. And I have to say that we are quite worried because it's a big jump. But we are preparing the company for that.
Fantastic. Enrique, what about your relationship? Are they happy with you? What are they pushing for?
Yeah, I think they are happy. What's important, it's long term. Everybody that we have as investors in the company since day one, we founded the company 6 years ago, they are for the long term. And that's why I really like launching the company in the public space, because the investors we have been able to choose and they have decided to join in this IPO are understanding that this is not about today, it's about the 97% of installations that need to happen and the energy transition. So having long-term investors is key. If you have this and people believe in the vision and what's going to happen, and believe in the future of the market, the rest is just executing. And I would say long-term is key, and we have been able to have the long-term investors.
Fantastic. And last but not least, Peter, in just a minute, investors, good, bad, relationship.
Well, we only received our first round of outside investment about a year ago. And we searched for the right partners for quite a while. I think we found them with Verlinvest and Gemjar, 2 investors that already invest quite heavily in other companies that play in the impact and sustainability space. So it's nice to work with investors that don't necessarily only look at the bottom line. That said, I mean, that is still important to us and important to them. So their capital helps us really grow internationally much more quickly and have more impact in Africa.
What an amazing example you are, Jaime, Enrique, and Peter. I'm sensing that investors are understanding the value of long-term, the value of impact. You have shown that that impact can be matched with profits and with growth, with good growth, with positive growth. And I especially love your 3 projects. It's not tech. It's really the kind of projects that make things possible in chocolates, in cars, and in the forest around us that surround us. So congratulations to the 3 of you. I love this teaser. I'm sure people will want to interact with you much more. And thank you very much for this session.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you very much.